Hello, everyone. I'm Lauren Culp, the publisher and CEO at CUInsight.com, and I am joined today by a very special guest. I am thrilled to welcome to the video Dave Adams, the president and CEO of CU Solutions Group and the Michigan Credit Union League. Dave, how are you? Thanks for joining.
I'm great. Thank you for the opportunity.
Great. We're so glad to have you, although the circumstances around having these calls could be a little bit better, but these are really difficult times for so many people. I'm curious, what is CU Solutions Group doing to support credit unions and their members during this crisis?
Well, you're right. It's an unprecedented time, and credit unions and credit support organizations are dealing with an environment that they've never dealt with before. So it's challenging all of us, I think, to look at our plans and our strategies much different. I think we look at different phases. Like the first phase is most of us are under a stay-at-home order, where credit unions, although essential service providers, many of their employees are working remotely. So that puts us in a mode where we have to think differently in this very near-term phase about how we interact with credit unions and serve their needs. A second phase, though, is going to be what happens after the economy gradually reopens, and how do we approach serving credit unions in that mode. And then right in tandem with that and on the heels of that is we're in a recession. We're growing out of a recession. So the environment's going to be different in that regard. So CUSG serves credit unions in areas of technology, marketing, HR solutions, and advisory services. In each of those divisions, while we have core offerings and existing clients, every one of our departments is being challenged to pivot to a strategy reset in terms of those phases I just mentioned. And I can give you examples of those, but the short answer is that in every one of those areas, we're trying to think in terms of what are the unique needs that credit unions have right now,
right,
and in each of those subsequent phases. And we're trying to adapt our service offerings and our approach to those needs.
That's amazing. Well, and I think so many credit unions right now are so busy that they're trying to get through right now, and it's so great to hear about partners for credit unions who are really thinking ahead for them and how can we sort of be on the leading edge of the things that they're going to be needing. Great.
Yeah, so if I were to elaborate, so our sales team, instead of trying to sell product right now, we're reaching out to our clients and saying, are you getting the most out of the services that you're using?
Right.
And what are the unique needs that you have right now that we can try to address? And then, oh, by the way, here are some things that we're working on. We're starting up new partnerships, we're investing in new products, and we're pivoting our offerings. So in the area of technology, for instance, we refresh and design websites and help credit unions with mobile app solutions. But now we're saying, okay, how can we help you serve your members remotely through your website and through your mobile channel? And so there are different features and different things that we're doing there. In the area of marketing, we have a member experience platform called Member XP. Well, credit unions, even in this environment and these different phases, need to be good at measuring member experience, customer experience. And so we can use our tools and talk about how we're helping to adapt to that. We have an in-house studio. Cube TV Studios is producing turnkey videos to help credit unions with their member messaging via social media and digital and their website. And so those are the things we're bringing up. Another one I'll mention in performance solutions. So we have products like Performance Pro, which is a performance management system, and Compes, compensation management system, and Planning Pro, which is a tool for monitoring plan metrics. Well, now with so many credit unions having staff who are working remotely, we can adapt those products to help them in the environment they're in to keep track of results and key activities. So those are some examples of some things we're doing. In the area of advisory solutions, much of what we're doing right now is having to be done virtually. So Brandy Stankovic and our advisors, instead of doing strategic planning sessions on site and executive coaching and other types of training, they're having to do a lot of that virtually. And one last thing I'll mention, in performance solutions, we have a learning management system, and we realize that this is an opportunity to provide relevant training topics for employees who are working remotely and who are having to keep up with new regulations and the new normal in terms of member service. And so those are some things that I would say we're doing. We're really trying to stay relevant, be relevant. And then when we get into the next cycle, it'll be more about helping credit unions save money and make money
Mm-hmm.
as they're dealing with the impacts of the recession.
Right. Well, it sounds like you all have quite a busy schedule with all of the things that you're working on. It's so cool to hear about all of those different things that you offer for credit unions, especially now. So, Dave, I'm curious, thinking ahead, how do you think that this is going to affect credit unions in the way that we all do business in the long run?
Well, I think when you think of the role of a futurist, I think that those speakers who call themselves futurists are going to be in demand, and they're undoubtedly thinking hard about how the world's going to be different. In the near term, until there's a vaccine for the COVID-19, you have to really wonder about social distancing extending well beyond the end of the stay-at-home order. So you have to wonder about entertainment, sports venues, and conferences and meetings. Once the economy reopens, I think that we can expect that some of that will start to happen again, but it will be, instead of people shoulder to shoulder in a stadium or shoulder to shoulder in a conference room, there'll be some spacing. Certainly when you think of credit union service delivery, the way that auto dealerships sell vehicles, even in the current state where they're doing so much of it virtually and with social distancing, I think that's going to continue for at least a year, again, until there's a vaccine that is broadly implemented. So the way that credit unions operate, I think the good news coming out of this environment is that we're all learning a lot about how to work remotely. That has incredible positive implications for the workforce, including credit union employees. It's not just cost efficiencies, it's creating a work environment that is really attractive to employees who don't need to suffer through long commutes to get into the office. So I think the new normal for the foreseeable future is that credit unions are going to learn a lot from this environment about how they can effectively serve members remotely. So that takes pressure off of brick and mortar investments. I think consumers will become instantly more comfortable with remote service delivery. And that's something that the most progressive credit unions have been working on for a long time. So the importance of mobile service delivery, effective call centers, the way we process loans with e-signatures and without the need to step into a physical office. It's all going to, I think, on balance, going to be a very positive thing for credit unions because it'll help save them money and it'll help serve their members in ways that speed up processes and help members get the most out of their financial institution.
Wow, and you're so right. There will be so many impacts, and thank you for sharing your perspective on what will we see, what we'll see change with members too. It's interesting because I can imagine a lot of members maybe haven't wanted to switch over the way that they bank, but just the necessity of doing that. It'll be interesting to see adoption maybe staying high for mobile banking and things like that. Too, you're right with the way that credit unions are able to attract talent. If we're able to have a more remote workforce, could definitely help us get closer to winning the war on talent there.
That's right. And, I think for service providers, those who are going to be particularly relevant, they're going to be coming up with the solutions that help credit unions do all of this. And so there are going to be some very positive things that come out of this, even though it doesn't feel that way right now, because right now we're all in crisis mode, right? We're hoping that the COVID-19 curve peaks and begins to come down, that we can open up the economy. I think job one for the biggest concern for credit unions right now, understandably, at least on the heels of making sure that their employees and their members are safe, is how are we going to survive what will be a very, very difficult and unprecedented recession, right, with high levels of unemployment, most likely high levels of delinquency and loan defaults. And we've been through tough economic cycles before, but we've never seen anything so abrupt and so pervasive as what we're going to see now. So I think credit unions are going to have to be creative individually and working together to make sure that lawmakers understand and regulators understand just how challenging these times are and get the forbearance and the governmental support that we need to keep credit unions and the whole financial system strong. And then growing out of that, hopefully we'll see a little bit quicker economic recovery than maybe what we've seen out of past recessions.
Right, right. Well, and this is such a good time for credit unions to really be able to live their mission of helping people and making sure that folks have access to the financial services that they need. So,
Right.
yeah, it's a good time to be a credit union, although obviously, the circumstances could be better for all of us. But I'm curious, I want to switch gears now. I'm curious, how are you doing personally? You are a well-known leader in the credit union space. I'm curious, what's been keeping you sane, or are you sane in these tough times?
Well, when we were hitting really the worst part of this early on, I started reaching out to some of our larger credit union leaders. And one of our credit union leaders, who I won't mention, but she's a very smart, progressive credit union executive. And I asked her how she was doing, and she said, strangely enough, I find all of this invigorating. And I thought, maybe that's really an example of someone who's prepared to lead, because even though it's stressful on us personally and on our families and certainly on our employees and how we approach it all, if we can rise to the challenge and actually be invigorated somewhat by the situation, I think that's key. So for me, I would say there are times where I feel invigorated, and there are times when I feel stressed out, like everybody. But what helps me is working from home. I make sure that if I don't get out for a walk or a run in the morning, I find a break during the day, which is one of the advantages of working from home, where I can get out once or twice and get some fresh air, get some exercise. I also rely on my go-to hobby distractions. I play the guitar. I love to play and sing. I think just taking the time to take care of your physical health and your mental well-being, keeping things in proper perspective, looking for the positives, right? And looking for opportunities to share positive perspectives with your family and with your coworkers and your employees. That's what helps me get through it. But one other thing I would just say, you mentioned it a minute ago, credit union people are amazing, and this credit union industry that we're a part of really shines during the most difficult economic times. I've seen it in Michigan as much or more than anyone, because we had 10 really difficult years leading up to the Great Recession, where our automotive industry was challenged and our state's economy was challenged. I've seen how credit unions in Michigan rise to the occasion during the toughest economic times. I've seen it nationally, though, through the Great Recession, and we're seeing it again now. This is when credit unions matter more than ever, and it's really motivating to be a part of that.
That is so true. Credit unions now more than ever definitely have this opportunity to serve all of these folks. Dave, I'm curious, do you have any last thoughts that you would like to share with our audience today?
I think just to add what I just said, and that's my thanks to credit union leaders, to the unpaid volunteers on boards of directors, the CEOs, the C-suite, the staff, the frontline staff who are putting their own health at risk, meeting the essential financial services needs of their members. I just say a big thank you for all that they're doing. It's inspiring to be working shoulder to shoulder with them. When you look at this SBA Paycheck Protection Program, and you see how credit unions, despite the clunkiness of the SBA rollout and the speed with which that had to be done, credit unions are challenging themselves to get that capital loaned out to the small businesses that need those funds, community by community. We're seeing credit unions step up with emergency loans that are being made to people who unfortunately are displaced from work, don't have income, not loans you would typically make. We have credit unions universally, voluntarily deferring not just mortgage payments, but payments on all loans. Taking steps to help their members, both consumers and small businesses. And I just say a big thank you. I'm very proud to work with this industry, both as a leader of a CUISO, but also as a CEO of the Michigan Credit Union League. It's very, very inspiring.
Well, perfect way to end our time today. Dave, thank you so much for joining me. We'll go ahead and link to the CU Solutions Group and the Michigan Credit Union League in the post of this video so that anybody who wants to get connected can learn more. Again, Dave, thanks so much for your time. I hope you and your family stay safe and healthy. And someday soon, I hope to run into you in person at a credit union event. And we will,
Likewise.
yes, keep our fingers crossed there.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
You too.